Have you ever looked at something so massive, so ancient, that you just can't wrap your head around how it got there? That's the feeling you get when you see the Moai statues of Easter Island. These silent, stone giants have stared out at the Pacific for centuries, guarding secrets we're still trying to unravel. Today, we re-diving into one of the biggest mysteries of all. How on earth did the Rapa Nui people move these colossal figures across the island? Let's start with the sheer scale of what we're talking about. The average Moai weighs around 14 tons. That's like 2 full-grown elephants. But some are much, much bigger. The largest one ever moved, named Paro, weighed a staggering 82 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than a Boeing 737 airplane. And it's not just their weight, it's their height. The tallest Moai, also Paro, stood almost 33 feet high, which is taller than a 3-story building. Imagine trying to move something that massive without any modern machinery, without wheels, and without draft animals like horses or oxen. The Rapa Nui had none of these. They had their own ingenuity, their strength, and their deep-rooted culture. So how did they do it? To understand the journey, we have to start at the source, the nursery of the giants, a quarry called Reno Raraku. This is the crater of an extinct volcano, and its walls are made of a special rock called volcanic tuff. It's relatively soft when first quarried, making it perfect for carving with the stone tools the Rapa Nui had. Nearly all of the 900-plus Moai found on the island were carved right here. You can still see hundreds of them in various stages of completion, some still attached to the bedrock, as if the workers just dropped their tools and walked away one day. Carving a single statue was a monumental task in itself, estimated to take a team of skilled carvers about a year. But once a statue was carved, the real challenge began, getting it from the quarry to its designated platform, or ahu, which could be miles away. The roads leading away from Reno Raraku are littered with fallen Moai. These are the ones that didn't make it. They broke during transport, offering us crucial clues about the methods used. For a long time, the prevailing theory was that the statues were laid flat on their backs on large wooden sledges. These sledges would then be pulled over rollers made from tree trunks. This makes sense, right? It's similar to how some think the Egyptians built the pyramids. And for a while, this was the accepted explanation. It would have required a huge amount of timber, and pollen analysis of the island's soil does show that it was once covered in dense palm forests. In fact, one of the leading theories for the Rapa Nui's societal decline is that they deforested the entire island, partly for this very purpose. But in recent years, a new, more fascinating theory has taken center stage. This theory suggests the statues weren't dragged lying down. They were walked upright. It sounds impossible, but hang on. The idea is based on Rapa Nui oral traditions, which have always said the statues walked to their final destinations. Archaeologists initially dismissed this as folklore, a myth. But what if it was a literal description? Researchers like Terry Hunt and Carl Lippo decided to put it to the test. They noticed that the fallen statues found on the roads have a distinct shape. They're wider at the base and have a forward-leaning posture, making them unstable if stood perfectly straight. Their center of mass is shifted forward. Hunt and Lippo theorized that this was a deliberate design feature for transport. By attaching ropes to the head of a replica statue, they found that teams of people, pulling in a coordinated rhythm, could rock the statue from side to side. With each rock, the statue would pivot forward on its front edge, taking a small step. It shuffles, it waddles, it walks. It's a slow, painstaking process, but with a small, well-organized team, it's entirely possible. They demonstrated this with a 5-ton replica and just 18 people. It was a wobbly, heart-stopping dance, but it worked. The statue moved forward, upright, just as the legends said. This walking theory also explains a few other mysteries. For example, many of the fallen statues along the transport roads fell forward, often face down. If they were being dragged on their backs, you'd expect them to fall backward if a rope snapped. But if they were walking, a stumble would likely send them pitching forward. Also, the bases of the road Moai are often chipped and beveled, consistent with the kind of wear you'd expect from rocking and shuffling them across the ground. Once a statue reached its final ahu, its base would often be reshaped to make it more stable for permanent display. The walking shape was temporary, just for the move. Of course, this doesn't mean the sledge theory is completely wrong. It's possible different methods were used at different times or for different statues. Perhaps smaller moai were sledged, while the larger ones were walked. The debate is far from over, and it's one of the things that makes Easter Island so captivating. But regardless of the exact method, one thing is absolutely certain. Moving the moai was a massive community effort. This wasn't the work of a few people. It required incredible social organization, leadership, and shared purpose. Imagine the scene: hundreds of people from different clans working together. Teams to clear the path, teams to manage the ropes, teams to chant and keep the rhythm. It would have been a spectacle of human cooperation. And this brings us to the why. Why go to all this trouble? The Moai weren't just art. They were powerful symbols of ancestral authority and power. Each statue was likely commissioned by a specific kinship group or clan to represent a deified ancestor. They were placed on the Ahu platforms along the coast, facing inland towards the villages they were meant to watch over. They were guardians, protectors, a tangible link between the living and the spirit world. The act of carving and moving a moai was a huge investment of resources and labor, a way for a clan to display its status, wealth, and power to its rivals. The bigger the statue, the more powerful the clan. So this whole endeavor was deeply tied to their social and religious life. The story of how the moai were moved is more than just an engineering puzzle. It's a story about human resilience, innovation, and the power of collective belief. The Rapa Nui people, isolated in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, accomplished one of the greatest feats of megalithic engineering in human history. They did it with stone, wood, fiber, and an incredible amount of teamwork. So the next time you see a picture of those stoic, enigmatic faces, don't just see a stone statue. See the echo of a people who, against all odds, made their ancestors walk. The mystery isn't fully solved, and maybe it never will be, but every new theory brings us a little closer to understanding the incredible ingenuity of the Rapa Nui. What do you think? Were they walked, or were they dragged? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a fascinating debate that continues to challenge archaeologists and inspire our imagination. Thanks for joining me on this journey to Easter Island. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world's greatest mysteries. See you next time.